Perfect.
What's happening, y'all, man? What's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. Of course, this is the show. We cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Wells, and as you can see from the title of this show, this is my thoughts on possible, and possible is in caps because this is all educated guesses. Nothing for certain. Possible head coach candidates for Southern University football position. Um, I decided to go ahead and throw some names on a list. I mean, these can be um, realistic. They can be far fetched. I don't even know where the search is gonna be headed. But I just wanted to throw some names out there. So if one of them come true, I look like I know something. If not, then I don't know nothing. But I just wanted to throw out some names, and you're gonna hear all kind of names and everything. So I just wanted to put a disclaimer on this video that this is all just guessing and just having fun with the list. Because some of these coaches on the list, they probably make more money doing what they're doing now, and they probably won't want to take pay cut to come to Southern. Although you never know. But so this is not me saying these guys are gonna get the job or these guys are front runners or nothing like these. These guys might not even be interested. The school may not be interested. I don't know, but I just thought I'd put some names out there just to kind of kick the ball around a little bit. Um, I'm also going to use a list that the Advocate, which is the Baton Rouge newspaper, they put out. Jim Kleinpeter, who is the beat writer for the Advocate covering Southern University, he put out a list of 5 candidates who he thinks should be considered for the job. So I'm going to run through his list. And then I'm gonna give some names that I call them a wish list, but I don't even know if that's the right term for what I'm. They're just guys who I think could do well on the job, whether they consider it or not. That's up to Southern. I will say there will be no celebrity coaches on my list. That I don't really got nothing against that, but that's not really a thing that I tend to do. So if you think every Ray Lewis, Cam Newton, any of those guys, if you think those guys are the guys, then hey, more power to you. I'm not against it, but I'm not really for it either. So you're not gonna hear me throw those kind of names out. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Just make sure y'all like the video and hit the subscribe button, and hit the join button to become a member, or hit that super thanks, or hit the Cash App $SWAG Talk to support the show. So let's go ahead and get on into this, man, so we can get in, get out. This I'm gonna start off with the 5 names on the Advocate list. Obviously, the name everybody probably has thrown around or has seen thrown around when it comes to Southern University is Chennis Berry, and I mean his name is gonna be on a lot of people's list for a lot of positions. He's an up and coming head coach at Benedict. He has led them to a 23-6 record since he's been there. He's 14-4 in conference play. He's been undefeated overall and in conference for 2 consecutive years, going to the playoffs again. So he's a guy who came from Southern. He was the offensive coordinator at Southern from 2013 to 2019. He also coached the offensive line while he was there. So, he's familiar with Southern. He helped be a part of a winning program when he was at Southern. He also coached at North Carolina A&T, Morgan State, Fayetteville State, Kentucky State, and Morris Brown. So he's been around and he knows the HBCU realm. He knows Southern. He knows how to build a program basically from not much at Benedict. So, and he's a winner there. So that's probably a name that you see a lot of people throwing around for the position. Another name who was a Southern assistant coach who I don't think this guy should would put his name in the hat because he got something great going on. But this is my list here, and that's Trey Oliver, the North Carolina Central head coach. He's 47 years old. He was an assistant coach at Southern. Also, he spent 3 seasons as defensive coordinator at Southern from 2016 to 2018. He's 27-16 in his 4 seasons at North Carolina Central. He's the coach of the reigning Black College National Champions. He won a Celebration Bowl last year. They're battling it out for the MEAC right now, but they took a tough loss last week, but they still have an opportunity to win the MEAC. He also coached at North Carolina A&T, Grambling, and Delaware State. So this is a guy that's again been around. He's a winner. Results. So I don't think that he's a viable candidate because I mean, why would he leave Central when everything is going well there? But the list was made. Another name that you're gonna hear a lot of people bring up, and his name came up in previous coaching searches, and that's Jabbar Jaloop. He's 51 years old. He played for Southern during the Pete Richardson era. He was a starting safety on the 1993 SWAC champion and Black College National Championship team at Southern. He coached running backs at the college level. Now he is I think he's the associate head coach at the University of Florida with Billy Napier. He was there at ULL with Napier for 4 seasons. UL Lafayette. He also coached at Texas Tech, LSU, and Louisiana Tech, and he also was the head coach at Edna Carr in New Orleans. So he's a guy who's a Louisiana guy, New Orleans, played at Southern, coached at LSU, coached now he's at Florida, coached in Texas, and he's a big time recruiter. He's a guy whose name is going to come up a lot. He makes a lot of money at Florida, and he just got there really. This is his second season, so I'm not quite sure he would be interested in the job or not, but his name comes up a lot. There are people who say Billy Napier's job is in jeopardy. I don't think so in 2 years, but that's always something to be wary of. But I don't. That's a name I hear a lot, but I'm not sure that he would really go for it. A name that I like a lot, and that's David Johnson. He's the running back coach and recruiting coordinator at Florida State. He is 53 years old. He's a New Orleans native, and he was a two-time All-Conference wide receiver at Nicholls State. He coached running backs and wide receivers there. Um, he was also the head coach at St. Aug in New Orleans from 2009 to 2011. He was an assistant coach at Millsaps, Tulane, Memphis, and Tennessee. Um, and now he is the running back coach at Florida State. He is in his he is making about $550,000 at Florida State. So I mean, any of these coaches are probably gonna take a cut to come to Southern, especially coming off of what Southern had to put out to get rid of Dooley. But he's a coach who he's making 500K right now. Next season he'll be making 550K. But he's a guy who definitely knows Louisiana. He recruits the state well for Florida State. He's done it at Tennessee. He's a guy who was a head coach in high school, knows the state, and really can get after it. So that's a name I would love to see stay in the hunt if he was interested. I'm not sure. He's been doing pretty well at Florida State right now, so kind of tough to see him go from there if unless the opportunity was just great. And then the final name on this list was an unlikely candidate as stated by the article, and that's Willie Titan, who is the quarterback coach at Southern. They're basically saying you know if they needed somebody to fill that spot because they didn't find the guy they like and they run out of time or whatever, and it becomes some kind of crazy search. He might be a guy who can fill that job. And he's coached at Valley. He was 31-57 at Valley. He coached around the SWAC in different schools. He only had 1 year at Southern, so he doesn't really have a lot of ties here, and not really sure how he would be on the recruiting trail. But he's a guy who obviously knows his position, and he's been around. So I'm this list is a mixed bag for me. It's a few guys who A lot of times you're gonna hear their names batted around, and then a couple guys who I think are unlikely. And so it's not a bad list, but right now we don't have nothing to work with, so we just kind of throwing names out and seeing what sticks. Moving on to the list of names that I pulled out of thin air, literally pulled them out of thin air. Um, First is Cortez Hankton. I'm gonna start it off with Southern probably can't afford him. He makes 900K at LSU right now, but he's the passing game coordinator and wide receiver coach at LSU. He played at Texas Southern. He's from New Orleans. He's a guy who's been around. He coached at Georgia from in 2018 to 2021. So he's a guy who's been around. He coached some really great receivers in his time now. He coached at Vanderbilt. He coached receivers at Dartmouth for 3 seasons. So he's used to coaching at a smaller level as well. Um, Before he went to Dartmouth, he spent 3 months working as a volunteer assistant with UCF. So he's been around. He recruits the state of Louisiana very well. He's from Louisiana, um, but he makes a lot of money at LSU. I just think that's a guy who, if he wanted it, this would be a good start for his career. Um, as a head coach. I mean, I think he's going to be a head coach somewhere at some point. But right now, I don't know if he's a viable candidate. But that's a name that I really I've seen a couple of people throw his name around as well. But I think it might be too steep for him. Um, another name from LSU, who's another local guy, and that's Brad Davis. He coaches the offensive line at LSU. He's from Baton Rouge. He went to Bel Air High School, but he makes 850K. He is in the last year of his deal, so I don't know. Maybe you can finagle something if you work your magic. But he's a guy who joined LSU program in the summer of 2021. He was the interim head coach after Coach O got fired. So he has a little bit of experience as a head coach. Um, in the 2 years at LSU, he produced two All SEC players, freshman All American. He also played at Oklahoma. He's a guy who, like I say, been around. He won a national championship at Oklahoma. He spent his last 6 years of coaching, been in the SEC. He stops at Florida, Missouri, and Arkansas. He spent the 2021 season at Arkansas after 2 years on the staff in Missouri, where he developed um, Tavar Wallace Sims into a first-team All SEC lineman. The Missouri offensive line helped pave the way for offense that rushed for 151 yards per game. Prior to joining Florida, he was the offensive line coach at North Texas, also East Carolina, and James Madison. He also was the co-offensive coordinator at James Madison for a team that finished 9-4 and made the playoffs. Um, so like I said, he's been a guy that's been around. He also coached at Portland State for 4 years. So he's familiar with coaching at the FCS level. And then he's just kind of worked his way up the ladder. He was a grad assistant at Texas A&M for 2 years before coaching as an offensive line graduate assistant at North Carolina. So he has a pretty vast resume. Like I said, he does have that little one game stint as an interim coach at LSU when he coached that bowl game after Coach O got fired. But he's a Baton Rouge guy, so that definitely can't hurt. Um, just again, just he makes 850K, so that might be too big of a drop off for him. But I think you still got to throw your name out there and see what happens. Another name that wasn't on the list on the advocate, but another name that's been batted around when it comes to Southern and the head coach job. And again, this is another guy who is probably a wish because I don't think he'll leave his current job. I mean, these guys make really good money where they at, and that's Jerry Mack. He coaches at Tennessee right now. He's a running back coach. He was the offensive graduate assistant at Delta State from 2004 to 2005. He coached receivers at Jackson State from 2006 to 2007. 2008 to 2009, he coached at UCA, Central Arkansas, where he was the passing game coordinator and receivers coach. 2010, he coached at Pine Bluff. He was offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. 2011, he coached at Memphis. He coached receivers there. 2012 to 13, he was the receiver coach at South Alabama. From 2014 to 2017, he was the head coach at North Carolina Central. 2017 to 2018, he was the offensive coordinator at Rice, also quarterback coach. 2019, 2020, he was elevated to the associate head coach at Rice as well. And then from 2021 to present, he was the running back coach he's the running back coach at Tennessee. Um, he won three titles at North Carolina Central when he was there. So he's a guy who he coached and won on the FCS level. He also was a part of a conference championship when he was at UCLA. He was UCA, excuse me, Central Arkansas, and he also was on that Jackson State staff that won SWAC in 2007. So he's a guy who has won where he's been. He's won when he was the head coach. He's won as an assistant coach. Like I said, I think that may be. I don't know. The pay may be a bit too low for him. He might be really comfortable at Tennessee now. But I think that's a guy whose name was batted around before the Dooley hire, and I think his name probably gonna be batted around again. He did go to the Celebration Bowl in 2016, which they lost to Grambling. He was 31-15 in his 4 years as one of the youngest head coaches at the FCS levels. He was the HBCU football coach of the year in 2016. So he had some success um, as a head coach. And again, I think he may be a bit too steep for Southern, too steep of a hill to climb for Southern. But that his name is probably going to still come up again. A couple of names. These are outside the box names. I think they're guys who should be considered for the job. Both names have been thrown around by a few people. Most notably, I heard these names through Uncle Reggie Flood. Y'all know Uncle Flood, man. He threw these two names around, and the first one is Marty Biaggi. He actually coached at Southern. He's the special teams coach at special teams coordinator at Notre Dame right now. Not sure what his contract is because Notre Dame, I don't think private schools really put that info out. They don't have to, but he's a 15-year coaching veteran. This is his first season coaching at Notre Dame. In 2011, he was the co-defensive coordinator at Pine Bluff. He coached at Southern from 2012 to 2014, where he was a special teams coordinator and defensive back coach. 2015, he coached cornerbacks at South Dakota. 2016, he coached special teams. He was a special teams analyst at Notre Dame. 2017 to 2019, he was a special teams coordinator at North Texas. And 2021, he was the Purdue special teams coordinator. And Mississippi at Ole Miss, he was a special teams coordinator in 2022. So he's a guy who's been around, spent the bulk of his time as an assistant. But he coached at Southern for a couple of years, so he's familiar with the program. I'm not quite sure, again, like a lot of these guys, I'm not quite sure if he is ready to be a head coach. But I do think guys like this you should contact and just kind of see where they at. And honestly, a coach come in with a special teams background is good for Southern. Southern been typically strong in special teams. He also has a defensive background, so that can help as well. He is a name to keep watch of. And the final name, again, this is another guy who not quite sure what his numbers look like, but it's his name is Slade Nagel. He's the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Tulane. He is his 8th season as a coach at Tulane. He played at Clemson and McNeese during his college career. He graduated from McNeese in 2001. He was the Northwestern State graduate assistant in 2002 and 2003. From 2004 to 2005, he was the quarterback coach at Dodge City Community College in Kansas. From 2006 to 2009, he coached quarterbacks and receivers at Northwestern State. Coached special teams at LSU in 2009. 2010, he was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Texas State. 2011, he coached running backs, and he was an assistant head coach at UCA, Central Arkansas. 2012 to 2015, he was the running back coach and special teams coach at McNeese. and from 2016 to the present, he is the assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. I think he coached tight ends as well during his time at Tulane. He's a guy who, like I said, he's been around a while. He's from Louisiana, but he played in Louisiana. He's from Lake Charles, so again, he's a guy familiar with the state, uh, and he's coached a while. He's played in the state. He coached in the state. He's a guy who can probably maybe innovate a few things, but like I said, that's another outside of the box name, if you want to call it that. But I just wanted to throw out a few names, and of course, there's gonna be tons of names thrown around. Who knows, honestly, where this search is actually headed. I'm not. I don't need a wide net cast for this search. I need a focused and honest search for this coach. I need everybody who you consider should get a fair chance. If it's a case where you already know who you want, then you need to go ahead and move on that guy now. Otherwise, then you need to really do a focused and thorough search and come up with the right guy for the position, because you can't do this every 2 years. You can't fire a coach every 2 years. It's gonna be hard to get coaches to come in if they know that they barely getting 2 years to do the job. So you need to be you really need to you really need to hire this guy under the assumption that you're gonna have him for a while, unless something bigger comes along for him to leave for. Um, you don't want to have to fire a guy, and any coach that you bring in may or may not work. So that's always something to keep in mind. So we'll see, where this search goes. Of course, we're gonna have updates as this thing moves. For Southern's sake, I think they need to not rush, but they do need to make a decision in a relatively swift manner. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna be able to get anybody in before the portal opens on December 4th, I think it is. But with that opening at that point and the early signing day coming after that, I think you want to have a guy in place either right then or shortly after the portal open. You really want to have somebody in place before signing day so you can at least have some semblance of a class. But otherwise, as long as you have somebody in place around that period of time to kind of get yourself ready for signing day, and you're gonna have to be able to work the portal, because you're losing 22 seniors, I believe, number one, and then you're probably gonna lose some guys through the portal because of the coaching change. So who knows what this team is gonna look like next year? So you're gonna have to work the portal when you get here. So you really need a guy who is not afraid to dip his toes in there, and a guy with some connections in a few places. So we'll see where they go with this. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, another Tech Southern job is open as well, where at least it's supposed to be open. I don't think it's open yet. Maybe it is. They go back and forth on that, but that's a position that's going to be open, and maybe Alabama and them at some point. We don't know. It's possible, but it's nothing certain. So there could be up to 3 jobs open in the SWAC, but the Southern job is definitely the one that a lot of people are going to be looking at, because they fired a coach in 2 years. So a lot of people are going to want to see how what kind of move they make. Can they actually make a positive move to, make up for the move that they made not working. So that's going to do it for this show, man. I thank y'all for tuning in. This is something I just wanted to throw together and throw out. Since everything's official now, wanted to go ahead and put that out there. And of course, like I said, you're gonna see names battered around all over the place, and the names on my list might not even be close to the names on other people's list. Might not even be close to the guy who gets the job. But I just wanted to put some names out there, just to kind of get a little conversation going. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, Sewell, signing out, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.